this is cringe, but it aligns to who I am and who I'm becoming. I really had like a big fear of judgment for the longest of times, and I haven't been really able to escape that. I feel like as a person, at whatever stage you are, you shouldn't really be allowing yourself to get fear of being judged by people as much. And it's such a easy thing to say, but a hard thing to do. I think how you should look at judgment from other people is just accept it for what it is, and try to not justify yourself as much, because your whole existence. There's a quote I liked a lot from the latest Chris Williamson and Alex Hormozy podcast that they do, I think, annually now. The favorite insight that I got from that is that your whole existence is like basically pulling away from mean, the mean. There's a regression to the mean that we feel our entire lives, and it will never fully go away, because even right now, the weather is cold. Me being warm is basically me just, like going away from the environment, like pulling away from the environment. But the environment is actually cold, so it's pulling me in with its coldness. It's trying to get me to regress to its mean, which is a cold mean. And me just existing currently is just me resisting the pull to the mean. And I think we should live similarly in our situations, socially. When you think about this video, is actually not going to be very scripted or anything, but there is like some things that I wrote here. When I think about like social situations and like what you want, your desires and everything, like even these things, I think the best way to live your life when it comes to fear of judgment and everything, the best thing you could do is just try to stray so much from the mean, but try to make it as authentic to yourself as humanly possible. Why I say this is simply because we tend to go in the opposite direction, or in an extreme direction, whereby we try too much to like stray from the mean, and we are not doing it in a way that actually serves us. We're actually doing more harm than we're doing good. When we hear so much about people, which I'll refer a lot to these people, because these are the people that I'm actually a lot familiar with, because I did a lot of self improvement YouTubing and everything, watching YouTubing. But yeah, from watching a lot of them, there is like this weird trend. Not all of them, but some of them, they will stray so much in the direction of the red pill and everything, and basically just kind of betray themselves to stray so much from the mean, because the mean has not served them. And it's a fair conclusion, it's a fair thing to kind of go off of. I don't really blame anyone for straying so much from the social norm and everything. But then again, in like refusing to regress to the mean, we often kind of lose ourselves, because we tend to do things just to not get judged by other people, or we do things to get judged by other people to kind of reinforce the fact that we are not being socially conformant. I don't know if it's conforming, but we are not socially conforming to what is considered normal or taboo. We see this a lot. Actually, I'm going to kind of dial it down a bit with the formalities, but we see this a lot when we are talking about the modern day kind of the kind of modern day that we live in. When we see maybe women, girls, or like basically females, there's that kind of feminism stuff, and they stray so much. The kind of feminism thing is kind of pushing so much from away the conventional fuck the feminism movement and everything is kind of pulling away from the conventional way of how women or feminine people should be, and kind of going to this direction where people are being themselves and they are basically liberated in choice and everything. And while it is like could be seen as a good thing and everything, there is a problem that because people have strayed so much away, that people have like mental health issues and they basically cannot control themselves. They're very sexual and everything. It's like now these things, they're like they've pulled so much from the mean that they do not really need to recognize the mean as much. But then because they put so much away from the mean, they are kind of slaves to this rule of pulling away from the mean, that they do not really think much about what they want. And this is very damaging to you because you end up doing like bad decisions without consciously thinking of really what you want. I think that's how I think about it a lot. But yeah, there's something I've been thinking about when coming to fear of judgment. It's something that's really interesting to touch up on. And again, one of the things that I really experienced in the past, not currently, is basically not going after the things that I wanted or not doing the things that I wanted because I fear being judged. And this happened not so long ago when I was afraid to tell my friends that I wanted solitude for myself. I wanted time to myself and everything. And it was basically this fear of what if they judge me or they attack me on the fact that I do not want to conform to the idea of being social when I'm feeling like an empty shell. And this is something that I feel like a lot of people have felt at some point. Uh, for the most part, you are like a shell in social situations because you do not exactly fit in, or you fit in but you don't exactly belong there. And I feel like that problem does really show up in unpleasant ways because during this time when I was not fighting for my solitude or fighting for what I want, I became sort of like a negative person, sort of like a cynical person because of how I was thinking of these people which I call friends, and I'm not telling them what I want and I'm not expressing it in the clearest way possible. And it gave me like anxiety too. It gave me anxiety too. And I feel like that's something you don't want to have as part of your life. Having these negative emotions because you are repressing your real desires. So what I'm going to say is just when you're pulling away from the mean, from this mean, uh you have to do it in a way that is self-serving, not really uh, catabolic to your progress. For example, if you want, I will relate this to something that I've been thinking a lot of. It's kind of a desire, but it's not really a conscious desire. But I've been having like this desire. It's been actually, I'm going to say it's semi-conscious, but this desire, I think it's motivated a lot by the fact that I have like an increase in testosterone at this age, but it's basically being intimate with a female, and this kind of goal has been something that I've been trying to fight consciously and unconsciously because it's something that could be frowned upon. It would be seen as embarrassing or something like that. Not because like I'm doing it. It's because like I'm talking about it and not really acting like a fucking retard. And I'm just acting, not acting, but I'm just talking about it and kind of rationalizing it before I act, which is something it's very frowned upon when you think about your desire, especially related to intimacy and everything. You will notice that you kind of get like side eyes and like weird attitude about that fact that you want a female, but you are talking about instead of like kind of doing the action. While I would argue that it's kind of 50-50 the point. I don't know if I'm making sense. I'm hoping I do. But in instances where I've been like having an eye for a certain girl, I would like repress talking about it so much because I fear the judgment and I fear the social rejection and everything. And as a result, I would kind of let that girl go. And it becomes problematic over a long term because you feel like you have like no or selective confidence in certain situations, and it does tend to do a number on you. So that's something I want you to like think about: the regression to the mean. You are always fighting this force of the regression to the mean. The best thing you could do is just fight it. But when you're fighting it, do not go in a direction so far because you are doing it for the people. You are just going against the people rather than going uh, for your own judgment. I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I hope I made sense with this. So, bye bye.